This one too? Okay.
Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here in Asia Torn, the old city of Jerusalem, overlooking the Western Wall. When discussing sexual proclivity, meaning what people are interested in, it's obviously that's a very hot topic, and all of us are supposed to somehow bend over to the left-wing millennial atheist perspective of that we're that this is what I am, like this is who I am, which is a really weird statement to say about one's very small part of their body. No offense, because that is not who you are. Obviously, that is your genitalia. But there are people who will somehow like come out of the closet and announce like this is who I am. Which is, again, it's just really weird thing to be letting everyone know. Can you imagine me letting you know that? Can you imagine me letting you know that about my wife and I? This is who I am. It'd just be so ridiculous. Like that's what I'm saying. It's just ridiculous. And Torah mentions this in no uncertain terms, because you can always go back to Hebrew to understand things. And Hebrew says that Hebrew teaches us that from a word that's called, it's the word that's used for someone who is doing anything but heterosexual normative interaction. Anyone who's doing anything but normative heterosexual behavior is called in Hebrew. If he's a male, he's called a kadesh, and if she's a female, she's called a kadesha. Now, what is the kuf dalet shin? What is that roof? Kadosh or kadesh or kadesha? What is that?
Holy.
Well, you're thinking holy.
Separate.
But it literally means separate, because things that are holy are separate. Like the 10th cow, when you're counting your cattle, is holy. You've got to bring it to the temple. The 10th one. It's separate than the others. Okay. The 7th year is separate than the other 6, and we have to rest the land of Israel on the 7th year. The Sabbath is holy. It's Shabbat Kodesh. It's separate. The Jews are Am Kodesh, or Goy Kadosh, a nation of holy people that are separate than the Gentiles. So, yes, it means separate. And now, why, though? Why people who are involved in anything other than normative sexual interaction, why do I call it normative? Is because look at the creation, like that's how the creation works, from like literally from insects all the way up to wild beasts. They work this way, and in normative, what's called normative. And so what happens is that when your sexuality is normative, if you look at yourself on a pie chart, so you got lots of slices that make up your interests and stuff, and I suppose if you add all your interests together, maybe you got a picture of a person. Maybe, I don't know, but if you look at all the interests of a person, we're all pretty multi-dimensional. And so you've got like, you got like family, and you got like friends, and you got like money, and you got like the arts, and you got like maybe into music, and you may be into sports, and you might be into, I don't know what you're into cars, and you're into, we're into a lot of things, and might be into philosophy or other kinds of studies, or maybe you're into, I don't know, what are people into? People are into a lot of things, a million different things. But anyway, let's put here friends. Did I put friends?
Yes.
Friends. So you're interested in intimacy or a relationship, etc. You're into a lot of things.
Nature.
Oh, spirituality. Put that in there. But, okay, we're into all these things. And that's a normal human being. Now, sexuality. How big a slice would you put? How big a slice do you put for someone who's a monogamous? a monogamous, a married monogamous man or woman, think about your uncles and aunts, or think about, your friend or your local rabbi or something. Like, how much do you spend thinking about your aunt or uncle or grandparents sexually? It's like, I'm just asking you, how thick a slice in their whole identity of things they're into? Because they're into it, man, because you see that your grandparents had kids, because that's how you got here, So they're definitely into it. But how big a slice do you give it? And the answer is a really small slice. I mean, Michael, I imagine you don't think too much about that when you think of me. It's like, that's just not on the radar. I'm into various things, but
Right.
but whatever happens in my private, intimate, physical life is not really. You probably never thought about it ever. Have you ever thought about it?
Not until now.
now he's starting to think about it. So he's starting to think about it, which is, by the way, very interesting. That since we're on that, just real quick, is that this is the issue with Sex Anonymous, the 12-step program for sex addicts. It's the problem with it is because, you see, Alcoholics Anonymous, they don't want to drink alcohol anymore. They're done with that. And they're going to meet with people to get over it, right? But no one comes to Alcoholics Anonymous with a bottle of vodka in their hand. Where does sexuality take place? And the answer is mostly in the mind. Sexuality is mostly in the mind. That's why you'll see that someone could have everything lined up perfectly, but if the mind gets distracted by baseball scores, it's over. So it's like instantly gone because sexuality takes place in the mind. So getting together with a bunch of sex addicts to hear sex stories is sex. That is sex. You may not be fornicating right now, but you're involved in sexuality right now. And you understand what the issue is there. And so what's the answer for that? We don't have time right now in our scope. Now, what happens when someone's involved in non-normative, i.e. marriage sexuality? What if someone's in non-normative, married monogamous sexuality, which is the norm for almost all of human history? It's like, go check your science papers. Like, that's been the norm for every civilization in all of history, with the exceptions of few that actually disappeared. Wonder why. Okay? So what happens is, it starts to take over your life. You become separated by it. Sexuality actually starts growing, starts gaining more of a picture. I once asked a group of college kids who were here on Birthright and asked them, so how big a slice would you all make sexuality? And some girls like, the whole pie. Anyway, but we'll put over here, when sex is done. And here's the weird thing that Torah gets just by the word Kadesha or Kadesh, is that when sex becomes other than normative, instead of it being that tiny slice that you would never have thought of, Michael, had it not been brought up, all of a sudden it just starts consuming the rest of the pie. It just starts like taking over the rest of the pie. I mean, it's like me trying to speak to the homosexual man sitting next to me on my LL flight to New York tonight, about God the whole time. It's like, wrong God. You understand? It's like, it's like just not probably the best listener. But after a while, it just seems to take over. It just like completely takes over your life until you're announcing to the world, this is who I am. Now, something very interesting to note, and that is that women are generally attracted to men, unless things have gone sour that way. But women are generally attracted to men. Men are generally attracted to women, but generally. Because a more feminine man will be attracted to a more masculine woman, and a more masculine woman will be attracted to a more feminine man. And that's probably a good idea for them to marry someone like that. Because male likes female and female likes male. Like, for example, all the emasculated males, which is you guys today, all you like half men raised in the last 70 years, you probably are excited to have some woman take care of you. Close that for a second. You probably want a woman who's powerful and meaning taking on masculinity type causal positions, and that you probably somehow want that, which of course is the biggest turnoff ever to females, at least once they hit their mid-30s. And but anyway, this is the important point that I want you to get. The sexual proclivity of males is not females, and it's not males. The sexual proclivity for males is friction. They don't care where it comes from, in general. And it's not a nice thing to say about men, obviously, but every man in this room knows it's true. And now, it doesn't mean for a woman. It was just really bad timing. Close it. You got it. You'll understand in a minute. I'll explain. Just close it. No, there's never a reason like this. So so again, it's not a nice thing, but women should know it doesn't mean that a man's not totally crazy. If you're married to a man and there's friction going on, it's not that he's not experiencing this as the union of the two of your souls forever. He is. He is experiencing it just like you are. But men simply like friction, period. They just like friction, period. And they don't really care that much where it comes from. And for this reason, men have to be extra careful to, do everything they can to maintain their power. And that it means to abstain from it so that they can maintain their power. And I haven't given the how to do that really here, but they got it. But that's how a man's powerful, because a man who doesn't have that under control is weak, and he feels it and he knows it. But once a man knows that that's his sexual proclivity, his friction, well, he can now say, well, because some of those men say, well, how could I ever be married to a woman? I wouldn't be turned on. And the answer is, yes, you would. Yes, you would. Maybe not like some other man like some other man who's turned on women, maybe not like him. But for sure you could be. For sure you could be. Because once the woman's informed of what's going to be necessary here, she will provide that, and everything will be perfectly fine in one's married life. They will do just fine. And there's so much more to marriage than sexuality. So much more to it than sexuality. I mean, just so much more. That all of those things can be had by even a man who has spent the last 10, 15, 20 years, if not his whole life, feeling that he's homosexual. But once he's married, and the men I know who've done this are happy to speak to you. If you're the man who's always felt like you could never get married, the ones I know who are happily married for many, many years and doing amazing, they've been enlightened to the richness of marriage, and have finally realized that was like they were about to miss out on so much in their lives, and they managed to pull it all together, get married, and she was able to provide, even in the bedroom, exactly what he needed. Shalom, everyone. Thank you. Oh, this class raises money for a family to eat on Shabbos, and this rabbi brings... Shalom, if you enjoyed watching this, well, watch some more, send it, click it, forward it, join it, subscribe to it. Keep coming on and joining me in this amazing movement to make a big difference in the world. And the biggest thing you can do of all is to join the YomTovMediaClub.com. Please go online, YomTovMediaClub.com.